Li Weigua, her husband, was hospitalized with terminal cancer. On the last day before his passing, their son helped Jian Qiuyue, with her silver hair and a fitted cheongsam, to the door of the hospital room. Her husband clutched her hand tightly, tears streaming down his face, as he cried out his regrets. Their son and daughter-in-law praised the transcendent, tragic love between her husband and Jian Qiuyue, in front of the media. On his deathbed, her husband amended his will, leaving all his estate to Jian Qiuyue. Her son also knelt down and swore to provide for his Qiuyue mom until the end of her life. I was literally driven to death in the hospital. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day when Li Weigua forced me to take the blame to protect Jian Qiuyue. This time, I took the initiative to let go and applied to the military medical university. Sister Hongxia, it's bad. Li Weigua and Jian Qiuyue went into the cornfield to fool around. They've been caught by the patrol team. You'd better hurry over and take a look. My cousin rushed to my house to deliver the news. My mind went blank with a loud buzz. Suddenly, I realized I had been reborn. I was reborn on the day I had to take the blame for Jian Qiuyue and was forced to get engaged to Li Weigua. In my previous life, Li Weigua and I grew up together like childhood sweethearts. Li Weigua had always told everyone since he was young that I was his unwed little wife. Back then, my heart was completely set on Li Weigua. All I could do was wait for my childhood friend to take me home as his bride when I grew up. But who would have known? Ever since Jian Qiuyue was sent down to our village, Li Weigua never mentioned our engagement again. He felt sorry for Jian Qiuyue's frail health and silently added the work points he earned all day to her account. When he heard that Jian Qiuyue hadn't eaten meat in a long time, he immediately sold the pen I gave him. He took Jian Qiuyue to a state-run restaurant and ordered a large plate of braised pork. Later, he and Jian Qiuyue were caught by the patrol while sneaking into a cornfield for a date. Seeing Jian Qiuyue trembling in fear, Li Weigua came to my house and knelt down in front of me with a thud, begging me to step in and take responsibility for this scandal. The reason being that our families had once made a verbal marriage agreement. An unmarried couple sneaking into the cornfield, though shameful, is not a capital offense. Jian Qiuyue's family background was problematic, and if she were labeled as a loose woman, she would definitely be sent to a farm for re-education. At that time, I truly hated Li Weigua and Jian Qiuyue to death. However, for Li Weigua's future and reputation, I had to step forward and admit that Jian Qiuyue was only delivering a letter for me. The one who truly went on a date with Li Weigua, it's me. After the incident, I quickly married Li Weigua. But because I had already been with Li Weigua in the cornfield before the wedding, my reputation was ruined. After the resumption of the college entrance exam, even though I got into university, during the political review, someone sent an anonymous letter to the school. I was disqualified during the political review process. For the next several decades, I was forced to stay in the countryside, taking care of my in-laws and raising children, until my in-laws passed away and my daughter-in-law needed to take her, at which point Li Weigua reluctantly agreed to bring me to the city. By then, Li Weigua had become a leader, and Jian Qiuyue had been arranged by him to work at the military hospital I had always dreamed of. They were glamorous city dwellers, while I was a dirty old woman from the countryside. Everyone whispers behind his back, saying that Li Weigua's only regret in life is marrying me, a rural woman. He missed out on the elegant and beautiful female military doctor, Jian Qiuyue, but no one knows that if it weren't for me taking the blame for this pair of adulterers back then, they would have already been sent to the farm for re-education. With such a punishment, in that era, not only would they not be able to take the college entrance exam, but they wouldn't even be allowed to return to the city. Thinking of the humiliations I endured in my past life, and the resentment and unwillingness before my death, I pushed my cousin away and ran towards the brigade office, crying. In my previous life, I was so worried that Li Weigua would be made an example that I rushed over, only to be caught by him, who then used moral coercion, sweet-talked, and tricked me into taking the blame. This time, I'm determined to make a big deal out of it. Captain, I want to report Li Weigua for adultery. Everyone in the village knows I'm Li Weigua's fiancé who hasn't yet married into the family. With that shout, the whole village ran to watch the commotion. In the cornfield, Li Weigua and Jian Qiuyue, their clothes in disarray, were panting and leaning against each other. Seeing me appear, Li Weigua's eyes lit up and he immediately shouted at me, "Hongxia, tell them quickly that you asked Qiuyue to arrange this meeting with me. You never showed up." And Qiuyue accidentally fell in the cornfield. So I helped her up, and they saw us. And now they're saying Qiuyue and I are having an affair. Please explain to everyone clearly. Qiuyue and I are truly innocent. I watched them in silence. Jian Qiuyue bit her lip and gently nudged Li Weigua. Li Weigua scolded me angrily. "Gao Hongxia, This is not the time for you to be acting childish and jealous. This concerns the reputation of both myself and comrade Jiang Qiuyue. You must explain yourself immediately." Jiang Qiuyue looked up at me, her eyes red and teary, and said, "Hongxia, I know you're uncomfortable with Weigua taking care of me, but you can't deliberately frame us like this. It was you who asked me to arrange for brother Weigua to come to the cornfield, yet now you're accusing us of being unfaithful, trying to frame us. I never expected that in this new life, these two would still try to pin the blame on me." I let out a cold laugh and immediately exposed Li Weigua's clumsy lie. "You're saying I asked Jiang Qiuyue to arrange for you to come to the cornfield?" Li Weigua gritted his teeth. "Yes," I laughed. "You were caught afternoon, if I remember correctly, during lunch. I just told you that this afternoon, I was going to rehearse the model opera with Chuanxia and the others. Could there be another me in this world who, while I'm rehearsing the model opera, could come out and sneak into the cornfield with you?" The onlooking villagers burst into a loud laughter. Li Weigua's fair face turned bright red, his eyes wide with disbelief as he stared at me, his lips trembling as he accused me. "Hongxia, do you really want to ruin Qiuyue and me? You know that the military will be here for the political review in a few days. Now that things have turned out like this, what am I supposed to do about the review?" I walked up to him, raised my arm, and with a loud slap, I hit him hard across the face. "Li Weigua, you've already sneaked into the cornfield with the landlord's daughter. Do you really think you can join the army? Stop dreaming. If you like Jiang Qiuyue, you can break off our engagement and be with her openly. But what about you? You want to use my father's reputation as a war hero to join the army. Yet you can't bear to part with Jiang Qiuyue, the landlord's daughter." Li Weigua, with your character, you don't deserve to wear that green military uniform. Li Weigua was stunned by my slap. Jiang Qiuyue hugged him with a heartbroken expression, looking at me with eyes. "Sister Hongxia, brother Weigua is about to join the army. How could you slander him at such a crucial moment?" Li Weigua looked at her with deep gratitude. "Qiuyue, you're the one who understands the bigger picture." I let out a cold laugh, suddenly reaching out to grab Jiang Qiuyue's hair and yanking her violently in front of me. Jiang Qiuyue clutched her hair tightly, letting out a painful scream. "Gao Hongxia, what are you doing? Let go." With one hand, I held on to Jiang Qiuyue's hair tightly, while the other hand rose high, slapping her delicate face with a series of sharp smacks. "I was so focused on hitting him that I forgot about you. I let you frame me. I let you seduce my man. Oh, right, this unfaithful man. I find him disgusting. I don't want him anymore. Aren't you just into picking up trash and messing around? This man is yours." Li Weigua finally realized what was happening and rushed over to rescue Jiang Qiuyue. At this moment, Jiang Qiuyue's small face, about the size of a palm, has been slapped so hard by me that it's swollen like a steamed bun. Seeing his beloved Bai Yueguan beaten to such a state, Li Weigua's eyes were filled with such hatred that he looked like he wanted to devour me alive. He roared at me with a ferocious expression. "Gao Hongxia, you're nothing but an unreasonable shrew. I'm warning you, if you don't sincerely apologize to Qiuyue today, then our family's engagement is off." I laughed. "So, how do you want me to apologize?" Li Weigua paused for a moment, as if he thought he had me cornered with the marriage issue, and said triumphantly, "Because you were blindly jealous, you misunderstood me and Qiuyue, causing Qiuyue such great distress, and almost tarnished her reputation. Go to the brigade office right now, turn on the loudspeaker, and publicly apologize to Qiuyue in front of the whole village to restore her reputation." Jiang Qiuyue covered her face and tearfully said, "Sister Hongxia beat my face like this, and I'm afraid I won't be able to show myself in public for 10 or 15 days, but if I don't go to the fields to work, I won't get any work points, and I won't be able to exchange them for grain." Li Weigua gently touched Jiang Qiuyue's swollen face with pity and turned to instruct me. "For the next half-month, let Gao Hongxia do your work instead. She's the one who did this to you, so she should take responsibility. Also, since Qiuyue won't have any work points and can't get grain, Hongxia, go home and bring 20 jin of grain to compensate Qiuyue." Jiang Qiuyue looked at him with deep gratitude. "Weigua, you're such a good person." Watching this shameless couple flirting right in front of me, I thought of the miserable life I had been deceived into in my previous life. With a cold laugh, I grabbed a broom and swung it at them without mercy, accusing me of wronging her, bullying her. "Fine, let me show you what real bullying looks like. A broom made of bamboo fibers hurts like hell. A sweep leaves behind bloody marks." Jiang Qiuyue screamed in pain as I beat her. Li Weigua shielded her, his face crisscrossed with bamboo slashes, looking like it had been clawed by a cat, blood oozing from the wounds. While holding Jiang Qiuyue and backing away, he shouted at me, "Gao Hongxia, stop. If you don't stop, I'm going to your house to cancel the engagement right now." I laughed. Fine, cancel it today, whoever doesn't cancel it is a son of a bitch. After speaking, I turned to the villagers watching and said, dear uncles, aunts, today I, Gao Hongxia, declare here that my engagement to Li Weigua is officially dissolved. From today onwards, we will go our separate ways in marriage. Any matters concerning Li Weigua have nothing to do with the Gao family. What's the big deal about breaking off an engagement? The real purpose of making a big deal out of this is to ensure that Li Weigua can no longer use my father's name to deceive people everywhere. In his previous life, after joining the army, Li Weigua was able to rise so quickly in the military and receive so much care from leaders not because of his personal abilities, but because he spread the word everywhere that he was the son-in-law of the war hero Gao Junsong. My father was injured on the battlefield, blinded in one eye by a shell, and was forced to retire from the military. However, my father still has many old comrades in arms in the military who have always kept him in their thoughts. In his previous life, Li Weigua rose to prominence in the military by leveraging these connections, even using my father's old to get Jiang Qiuyue into the military hospital. Everyone thought that by supporting Li Weigua, they could help my father and me live a good life. Little did they know, the one truly benefiting from Li Weigua was Jiang Qiuyue, the imposter who had taken over. This time, I want Li Weigua to see for himself whether he can escape this small village without my father's connections. When I mentioned breaking off the engagement, Jiang Qiuyue was secretly pleased, but Li Weigua's face instantly darkened. Gao Hongxia, are you ever going to stop? I've already said that my concern for Jiang Qiuyue is purely out of comradeship. If you're still worried, we can go to the commune and get our marriage certificate as soon as my military enlistment is finalized. I raised my hand to interrupt his self-importance. Absolutely not. You and Jiang Qiuyue have already been sneaking around in the cornfields. If I marry you, wouldn't that be like putting a green hat on myself? The crowd burst into laughter. Li Weigua glared at me fiercely. Gao Hongxia, think carefully. I'm about to join the army, and if you marry me, you can follow me and live with the troops. Maybe you'll even become a city dweller and eat commodity grain. If you break off the engagement with me now, you'll end up marrying a farmer and spending your whole life tilling the fields in the village. I smiled and immediately went to report to the brigade leader. Brigade leader, Comrade Li Weigua looks down on us proletarians who work the land. With such ideological awareness, can the army even accept him? Li Weigua's face turned pale, and he nervously looked at the captain. He thought the captain had always appreciated him and would definitely protect him this time. But he forgot that the captain had been taking care of him because he was my father's prospective son-in-law. Sure enough, upon hearing that I was going to break off the engagement with Li Weigua, the captain's face darkened as he said to him, Li Weigua, you clearly have an engagement with Gao Hongxia, yet you sneak into the cornfields with another female comrade, showing a serious moral degradation that has caused a very bad influence on our brigade. Starting tomorrow, you and Jiang Qiuyue will go to the farm to carry manure and reflect on your actions. Upon hearing the brigade leader's words, Li Weigua and Jiang Qiuyue's faces turned pale instantly. I smiled and turned to leave. At this time in my previous life, I was blamed for Jiang Qiuyue's mistake, pointed at by the villagers, and spent my days hiding at home, crying all the time. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the health center was training a batch of barefoot doctors to improve the medical standards in the village. The village chief had originally planned to recommend me, but because of this incident, I was reported and disqualified, and in the end, Jiang Qiuyue took my place and became a barefoot doctor. Later, it was also because of her experience as a barefoot doctor in the village that Li Weigua took advantage of the situation and recommended her to the military hospital. In this life, I will take back everything they stole from me in my previous life. When I got home and saw my parents, I ran to them with teary eyes. Dad, Mom, I want to break off the engagement with Li Weigua. I told my parents everything, how Li Weigua and Jiang Qiuyue secretly engaged in illicit activities in the cornfield behind my back, and how they wanted me to take the blame for Jiang Qiuyue after they were caught. In my past life, I always kept everything to myself, which gave Li Weigua the opportunity to take advantage. This time around, I won't be naive and cover up everything for him. My dad loves me the most. When he heard that Li Weigua was fooling around and even dared to make me take the blame, he grabbed his hunting rifle ready to kill him. I quickly stopped my dad. Dad, since he's throwing away a bright future and insists on getting mixed up with a woman like Jiang Qiuyue, let him go. My mom wiped away her tears in frustration. What are you going to do then? Everyone in the village knows you were in a relationship with Li Weigua. If you call off the engagement, where are you going to find another partner in such a short time? My dad retorted angrily. Then don't find one. My daughter, Gao Juansong's girl, can live her whole life without getting married, and I can take care of her. I quickly shared my plan with my parents. Dad, Mom, I heard the health center is training a group of barefoot doctors. I want to sign up. Anyway, I'm still young. I'll give being a barefoot doctor a try for 2 years first. My dad nodded, and the next day he asked someone to go to the health center to get me an application form. I was filling out the form at home when Li Weigua and Jiang Qiuyue walked in. Seeing the application form on the table, Li Weigua's eyes flickered, and he forced a smile. Hongxia, you really misunderstood Qiuyue and me yesterday. I brought her here to apologize to you. Jiang Qiuyue walked over with red eyes. Hongxia, I'm sorry. I was too scared yesterday, so I told a lie, but I swear to heaven, Weigua Ji and I are really innocent. I chuckled, innocent, and sneaking into the cornfield, Jiang Qiuyue bit her lip and looked at Li Weigua with. Li Weigua felt a pang of pain in his heart and without hesitation, he shielded Jiang Qiuyue behind him, shouting at me, Gao Hongxia, if you've got a problem, come at me. Can we keep our issues between us and not involve Qiuyue? She's already been through enough. I was so infuriated by Li Weigua's blatant bias that I couldn't help but laugh. Does she suffer? Since Jiang Qiuyue was sent to our village, how many days has she worked? How much has she done? Oh, she sure has eaten a lot. Red-cooked pork from state-run restaurants, canned peaches from the supply and marketing cooperative, and white rabbit candies. Li Weigua. When you sold the things I gave you and used the money to take her out to eat, did you ever think about who your fiancé really is? Li Weigua's eyes flickered with a hint of guilt, but then he spoke with righteous indignation. How can you compare yourself to Qiuyue? She never endured such hardships growing up, while you grew up in a village. Just because I grew up in the countryside, does that mean I deserve to suffer? Li Weigua, do you dare to say these words to the leaders of the army? I crossed my arms and looked at him with a cold smile. Li Weigua lowered his head in embarrassment under my sharp gaze. Jiang Qiuyue pursed her lips and looked at Li Weigua with difficulty. Li Weigua seemed as if he had suffered a great humiliation, his neck stiff as he spoke to me. Anyway, Qiuyue and I were wronged by you, Gao Hongxia. This is my final warning to you, right now. Go find the captain and explain to him that yesterday's incident was a misunderstanding on your part. If Qiuyue ends up being sent to the farm to shovel manure because of you, I will never forgive you. Li Weigua, say that again. Who exactly are you trying to warn? My father, leaning on his cane, suddenly walked in from outside. Behind him, 2 people in military uniforms followed. Seeing my father, Li Weigua clearly panicked. He stammered, Uncle Junsong, Hongxia and I have some misunderstandings. I want to clear them up with her face to face. As a man, I can take a bit of, but Hongxia, out of jealousy, spread rumors and slandered comrade Jiang Qiuyue, causing great harm to her reputation and even resulting in her being sent to the farm for re-education by the brigade. My father interrupted Li Weigua's defense. Isn't it slander? Just ask the villagers. At this moment, the villagers gathered at my doorstep to watch the spectacle began to speak up in my support. What slander? I've seen Li Weigua and Jiang Qiuyue sneaking off to the back mountain several times. I've seen them too. When they came down the mountain, they were holding hands. Li Weigua is engaged to Hongxia, yet he secretly took Jiang Qiuyue to a state-run restaurant, spending Hongxia's money. How shameless, everyone chimed in, leaving Li Weigua and Jiang Qiuyue too embarrassed to raise their heads. Just then, my father spoke up, Comrades, this is Li Weigua, who is signed up to join the army from our village. I suspect this young comrade has serious issues with his ideological conduct. Please ensure a thorough review by the organization. As soon as the words were out, I saw Li Weigua's face turn pale, and he almost couldn't stand. Jiang Qiuyue also turned pale. Just moments ago, she was closely nestled beside Li Weigua, but now, without a word, she has quietly distanced herself from him, as expected. The 2 leaders from the military. After visiting some villagers and in our village, they unanimously concluded that Li Weigua was morally corrupt, had problematic ideological and behavioral issues, and had even made statements that showed disdain for the proletariat, making him completely unfit for military recruitment. Li Weigua was disqualified during the political review process. Li Weigua went mad upon hearing the news. He stormed into the commune, grabbed Jiang Qiuyue by the neck, and slapped her repeatedly, more than a dozen times in quick succession. Jiang Qiuyue was sobbing so hard she could barely catch her breath, but this time, instead of Li Weigua's gentle comfort, she was met with his furious roar. Jiang Qiuyue, you're nothing but a jinx, you cursed your own parents to death, and now you've ruined me too. Didn't I tell you? I asked you to hold on, wait until I join the army, make some achievements, and then help you figure something out. Why can't you just wait? Are you really that desperate to seduce me? Now it's all ruined. I can't join the army anymore. Are you satisfied now, you bitch? Li Weigua became angrier as he spoke, tightening his grip on Jiang Choyue's hands. Jiang Choyue was being choked to the point of rolling her eyes, on the verge of losing consciousness. The other quickly rushed up and managed to pull the two apart. Li Weigua stumbled out of the youth camp, not knowing what he was thinking, and ended up at my house. Seeing me come out with my luggage, Li Weigua plopped down on his knees in front of me, raising his hand and slapping himself repeatedly. Hongxia, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been tempted and let that bitch Jiang Choyue scheme against me. She just saw that I was about to join the army and didn't want to stay in the countryside to suffer, so she wanted to follow me to the military base. I've finally seen her true colors. Hongxia, let's make up, shall we? Just give me a nod. And I'll bring a matchmaker to propose tomorrow. My dad kicked Li Weigua out with a kick. Too late. Didn't you go around bragging that you're joining the army and my daughter isn't good enough for you? I'm giving those words back to you now. My daughter is about to become a barefoot doctor, and later she can even take the exam to get into a medical school. You, a bad element about to be sent to the farm for re-education. Are you worthy of my daughter? Li Weigua suddenly looked up. A flicker of surprise in his eyes. What, Hongxia, you're going to be a barefoot doctor? Uncle Junsong, can you get me a spot? I'd go with Hongxia, so we can take care of each other. No need, I'll take good care of Hongxia. A tall figure walked in from the door. Since I didn't take the village's quota, it was my dad who got it through connections. In the end, the village leader gave the training quota for the barefoot doctor to another descendant of a war hero from the village. Zhou Emin's grandfather was a martyr who died in the defense of Nanjing. In my previous life, Li Weigua manipulated things behind the scenes, and the quota that should have gone to Zhou Emin was given to Jiang Choyue. In this life, I finally returned the quota that Jiang Choyue had taken to Zhou Emin. Seeing the tall and handsome Zhou Emin, Li Weigua's bloodshot eyes glared at me fiercely. I said why you were in such a hurry to cancel the engagement, so you've already found someone else, huh? Gao Hongxia, I'm giving you one last chance. Get me a spot as a barefoot doctor right now, or else I'll report your improper conduct to the health center, and no one will be able to go. My dad was so angry that he raised his cane to hit him, but I stopped him with a hand. Li Weigua gave a smug smile, gazing at me affectionately. Hongxia, I knew it, you still have me in your heart. I set down my luggage, walked up to Li Weigua, and before he could say a word, I slapped him hard across the face. Li Weigua glared at me with a sinister look. Gao Hongxia, are you sure you want to go down this path of mutual destruction? I rubbed my slightly sore palm, chuckled softly, leaned close to his ear, and whispered, mutual destruction, you think you're worthy, Li Weigua. If this really escalates to the commune, Zhou Emin and I are truly innocent, but what about you? Can you guarantee that you and Jiang Choyue, as well as your family and the Jiang family, are truly innocent? Think about what's buried under the pig trough in your backyard. Li Weigua's face turned ashen, his eyes staring at me as if he had seen a ghost. You, how did you know? I chuckled lightly. If you don't want anyone to know, don't do it in the first place. Li Weigua, if you have the guts, go report us to the commune. Go ahead, and I'll go too. At most, Zhou Emin and I might not be able to be barefoot doctors, but what about you and your parents? You helped Jiang Choyue by hiding her letters with her foreign relatives. And your parents, they helped the Jiang family hide quite a few treasures, didn't they? With a thud, Li Weigua fell to the ground, his legs unable to hold him up. I said goodbye to my parents and left with Zhou Emin without paying any more attention to him. In my previous life, I accidentally came across a few letters between Li Weigua and Jiang Choyue while cleaning his study on behalf of Li Weigua. It was then that I learned that when the Jiang family was sent down, Li Weigua and his parents had secretly helped the Jiang family hide a lot of things. But by then, Li Weigua had already risen to a high position. I was worried that if these letters were discovered, it could affect his career, so I advised him to destroy them as soon as possible. To my surprise, Li Weigua not only refused to listen but also accused me of meddling in his affairs and rummaging through his things. Now, looking back, how could he possibly be reluctant to burn those few letters? He couldn't bear to burn them, clearly because those letters were all handwritten by Jiang Choyue. Li Weigua probably couldn't have imagined in his wildest dreams that the love letters he and Jiang Choyue exchanged in their previous lives would become the lethal weapons I use against them in this one. Zhou Emin and I are upright and honest, so we have nothing to fear from any organizational investigation. So in this life, after arriving at the commune, I went to the health center to report in, and then immediately went to the commune to report to the organization about Li Weigua and his parents' actions of helping the Jiang Choyue family hide their assets. The commune leaders were furious and immediately took people to investigate the village. It is said that when the commune people arrived at the Li family's home, Li Weigua and his parents had just dug up the treasures they had buried in the pigsty. It was truly a case of being caught red-handed. Later, I heard that Li Weigua and Jian Qiuyue were both sentenced to prison, and Li Weigua's parents were sent to a farm to undergo labor reform, after the verdict was announced. Li Weigua wrote me several letters from prison, asking to see me. I ignored him, and he actually attempted suicide in prison. There was no choice. The prison authorities came to the clinic, and I had to go see him. At this time in his previous life, Li Weigua had already joined the army and was wearing a brand new green military uniform, but now, separated by a steel bar, he is bald, dressed in prison garb, and appears completely deranged. Seeing me appear, Li Weigua suddenly lunged forward, gripping the steel bars tightly with both hands, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me. Hongxia, it's all wrong. This isn't how it was supposed to be. I should join the army and rise through the ranks. You stay in our hometown to take care of my parents and bear my children. I looked at him sarcastically, and then, using my father's name, you'd pull the wool over everyone's eyes. Let Jian Qiuyue take my spot, become a barefoot doctor, go to a military medical university for further studies, end up in a military hospital, and live happily ever after with you as a perfect couple. Li Weigua froze for a moment, his eyes widening in disbelief as he stared at me. Hongxia, you're back too. When did you come back? I chuckled lightly. The day after you and Jian Qiuyue got caught sneaking into the cornfield, and you wanted me to take the blame for her. Li Weigua's face turned pale as he muttered, no wonder. In my previous life, when you heard I was caught, you rushed over without a second thought and admitted to doing it. I coldly stared at him, but what happened later? I was the one who sacrificed myself to protect your and Jian Qiuyue's reputation. Back then, I was vilified by the villagers, yet neither you nor Jian Qiuyue stood up to say a single word for me. Li Weigua bowed his head in pain. I stood up and said to him for the last time, Li Weigua, in your previous life, you died resenting me for taking your wife's place, leaving you unable to give your beloved woman a proper title for your entire life. In this life, I took the initiative to cancel the engagement and let you be together. Why are you crying? You should be happy, right? I turned and walked away. Behind me, Li Weigua's anguished wails echoed. After 6 months of training at the health center, Zhou Amin and I were both assigned back to our hometowns as barefoot doctors. 2 years later, due to our outstanding performance, Zhou Amin and I, as the first batch of barefoot doctors recommended, were admitted to the medical school. After graduating from the nursing school, we were both assigned to the county hospital. Over the years, we got to know each other better. In our first year of work, Zhou Amin came to propose with a matchmaker. These years, since I hadn't married, there were many rumors in the village, saying I dragged on and ended up as an unwanted old maid. To my surprise, this old maid eventually became a doctor at the county hospital, and even my partner is a doctor there. After marrying Zhou Amin, neither of us gave up on learning. A few more years passed, and the country announced the resumption of the college entrance exam. By then, I had already given birth to my eldest son, but Zhou Amin said that the opportunity was rare, unlike Li Weigua in my previous life, who left me behind in the countryside. He hired a nanny to help with picking up and taking care of our son, freeing up my time to review and prepare for the exams. With a solid foundation and unwavering dedication to learning, 2 months later, both Zhou Amin and I received our university admission notices. In this life, I finally fulfilled the dream I couldn't achieve in my previous one by being admitted to the military medical university. Zhou Amin and I decided to take our son to college with us. Before leaving, we took our child to visit my parents' home. Only upon returning did they discover that Li Weigua and Jian Qiuyue had already been released from prison. However, the couple's life after release was far from smooth. Jian Qiuyue had always been pampered, and due to her and the Jian family, Li Weigua not only lost his future but also spent several years in prison. Li's parents detested Jian Qiuyue. If it weren't for the fact that Li Weigua couldn't find a wife after his imprisonment, the Li family would never have allowed Jian Qiuyue to marry into their family. Jian Qiuyue didn't want to marry Li Weigua in the first place. What she wanted was a man who could become an officer and give her a good life. But in this lifetime, Li Weigua not only failed to join the army but also served time in prison, carrying the stigma of being a reformed criminal, which meant he would never get ahead in life. Jian Qiuyue couldn't stand him, but she had no choice. She had just been released from prison herself, with no job and nowhere to stay, so she had to cling to Li Weigua. Two people with hidden agendas, after getting married, would argue every other day. Li Weigua cursed Jian Qiuyue, calling her a jinx who ruined his future and his good marriage. Jiang Chuyue scolded him for being a coward who couldn't own up to his actions, yet still wanted to date her while unwilling to give up the benefits my family could offer him. On the day my husband Zhou Emin and I took our child to visit my parents, we happened to witness a major drama unfolding at Li Weiguo's house. Jiang Chuyue couldn't bear the hardships of village life any longer, so she seduced a truck driver, stole the last bit of money from the Li family, and planned to elope with him. Unexpectedly, Li Weiguo discovered them halfway. He followed them all the way to the village entrance, saw Jiang Chuyue and the truck driver embracing, and swung his axe at them. Jiang Chuyue's neck was nearly severed by the axe, and blood sprayed all over the ground. The truck driver had his arm chopped off by Li Weiguo. The villagers knew that both Zhou Emin and I were doctors. After subduing Li Weiguo, they quickly called for us to come and save the injured. When Zhou Emin and I arrived, Jiang Chuyue had already passed away. The truck driver had lost too much blood. Although his life was saved after being rushed to the hospital, he lost an arm and would never be able to drive a truck again. Li Weiguo was quickly sentenced to death for murder. Before his death, Li Weiguo's parents came to my house, hoping to see me one last time, but by then, Zhou Emin and I had already reported to the military medical university. In this life, I have a soulmate, and a pair of filial and sensible children. After no longer meddling in others' fates, I finally found my own happiness. Story 2. On the day of our 30th wedding anniversary, I was diagnosed with terminal stomach cancer. My husband, the high-ranking official, handed me a divorce agreement. Suwan, let's get a divorce. I'll leave with nothing, and all the money at home will be yours to treat your illness. Why? I asked him in a hoarse voice. The husband replied indifferently. You can't die as my wife, otherwise, Wanwan would have to be my second wife. Wanwan is proud and wouldn't stand for such humiliation. I spat out a mouthful of black blood and closed my eyes, unwilling to accept this fate. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on my wedding night. Yu Zhou, who was 23, told me, Shin Sujuan, I can marry you, but I won't touch you. I promised Wanwan that I would remain celibate for her entire life. I nodded. Then let's get a divorce. 1. The noisy wedding feast had finally ended. On the wedding night, Yu Zhou sat in a chair with a stern expression, looking at me. Shin Sujuan, let's talk. You know, Changwan and I were forced apart by our families. I can't forget her. I can give you a title, I can give you all my salary, but I, myself, cannot be yours. I promised Changwan that I would remain chaste until she comes back to find me. Hearing the familiar conversation, I felt a moment of dizziness in my mind. I actually reincarnated. Reborn on my wedding night, the day my husband Yu Zhou confronted me. 2. In my previous life, naive and inexperienced, I was moved by his tragic love story with Chen Changwan and agreed without hesitation, because Yu Zhou told me that if he didn't find someone to fake a marriage, his family wouldn't let Chen Changwan go. At the time, Chen Changwan was the daughter of a capitalist being sent to a farm. Yu Zhou, however, was the sole heir of the Yu family, a much-anticipated military third generation. The Yu family was adamant about not letting him marry the daughter of a capitalist for the sake of Yu Zhou's future. To placate Yu Zhou, the Yu family agreed that as long as the woman's background was good, he could marry anyone except Chen Changwan. Yu Zhou finally chose me, because my family has been poor farmers for 3 generations. We have a good background. Also, because I come from a rural area, I am naive and easy to manipulate. However, in this life, Yu Zhou, I don't want to be a part of your tragic love story anymore. I looked up at him calmly. I understand. Could you please come with me to the commune tomorrow to handle the divorce procedures? Yu Zhou looked at me in shock. Why? I smiled, revealing deep dimples. Because I was also forced to marry you. There's also someone in my heart, but that person, just like your Wanwan, I can't marry him yet. For a moment, I saw Yu Zhou's expression, as if he had swallowed a live fly. I secretly sneered. Why? Is it only allowed for you to have a white moonlight in your heart? Can't I have a cinnabar mole in my heart? 3. When I mentioned that there's someone in my heart, Yu Zhou pulled a corner of his mouth, revealing an awkward smile. I see. That's fine then. This way, we're even, but let's not get a divorce. After all, you can't marry him right now anyway. I shook my head firmly. No, he has a strong sense of pride. I don't want people to say he's the third party in our marriage. Yu Zhou's expression grew even more unpleasant, and he was about to say something. I had already picked up the large floral cotton quilt that came with the dowry. I'm afraid he might get jealous later. So tonight, let's sleep in separate rooms. Seeing Yu Zhou's astonished expression, I felt immensely satisfied. This time, you'll get to experience the feeling of being alone in an empty room, unable to sleep all night. 4. The next morning, I woke up to find the house cold and empty. Not even having made breakfast, Yu Zhou paused for a moment, then forced a bitter smile, saying, Suwan, even if it's just for show, we should at least act like a married couple, right? You should at least prepare 3 meals a day, otherwise the house feels cold and empty. What kind of life is that? Yes, that's exactly what the naive me from my past life thought. In my past life, I covered up the illicit love between Yu Zhou and Chen Chengwan. I swallowed my heartache and, like a dutiful wife, did the grocery shopping, cooking, laundry, and cleaning every day. I managed our small family with Yu Zhou in perfect order, but in reality, after work, Yu Zhou and I were like 2 roommates sharing a lease. We silently finished our meals and retreated to our respective rooms. For 3 whole years, Yu Zhou kept his promise to his first love and didn't touch me at all. 3 years later, my father-in-law was hospitalized with liver cancer, and my mother-in-law wasn't in good health either. Pressured by public opinion, I, as the daughter-in-law, had to sell my job and return home to take care of them. Little did I know, this caregiving lasted for 12 years. My father-in-law, suffering from liver cancer, passed away after 3 years, and soon after, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with a tumor. Those years, I accompanied my in-laws, taking care of their every need in the hospital, losing over 30 pounds in the process, so weak that a gust of wind could blow me away. But when I sent my in-laws off and returned to the military compound, I discovered that the home that once belonged to Yu Zhou and me had been taken over by his longtime crush, Chen Chengwan. That evening, I stood at the door, watching as Yu Zhou, dressed in a sharp military uniform, opened the passenger door of the jeep. With gentle eyes, Chen Chengwan, dressed in a stylish khaki coat, gracefully stepped out of the car, her hand resting on his. Yu Zhou was momentarily flustered when he saw me standing at the door. Suwan, why are you back? I forced a strained smile. This is my home, why can't I come back? Everyone in the courtyard turned to look, and Chen Chengwan, both ashamed and angry, yanked her hand away from Yu Zhou's, covered her face, and ran out crying. Yu Zhou glared at me with fury. Shen Sujuan, don't think that just because you've taken care of my parents all these years and seen them off in their old age, I'll be grateful to you and fall in love with you. On our wedding day, I told you that the person I love is Chen Chengwan, and we're just a fake couple in name only. 5. That night, Yu Zhou and Chen Chengwan didn't come back. In fact, if he had just waited 1 more minute, he would have known that I wasn't coming back to be his wife. I just wanted to take my things. I also wanted to tell him that now that his parents are gone, there's no one left in the world to stand in the way of him and Chen Chengwan. I wanted to part ways amicably with him and take this opportunity to get the divorce certificate. Let him and Chen Chengwan, this unfortunate couple, be able to be together openly. I'd also want to tell him that over the years, although I have had complaints, I never harbored any hatred towards him. Although he left me in a state of widowhood for 30 years, but because of him, I became a military officer's spouse for 30 years, enjoying military benefits for 3 decades. Even before she left, my mother-in-law held my hand and said that the Yu family owed me all these years. She told me that if I didn't want to stay with Yu Zhou anymore, I should divorce him. She left me 5,000 yuan and a house. So even if I divorced, I wouldn't be left with nothing. I had already made up my mind to part ways amicably with him, but for some reason, Yu Zhou was convinced that my intention to take care of my in-laws in their old age was just a way to morally blackmail him, ensuring he could never divorce me for the rest of his life. In our previous lives, we misunderstood each other like this. For the sake of Chen Chengwan's reputation, he applied for a transfer. Taking his beloved white moonlight to the far frontier, I stayed in my hometown, enduring endless gossip, and eventually developed stomach cancer. Even on my deathbed, I was forced to divorce. 6. My thoughts returned, and I picked up my household registration book along with the marriage certificate I had just received the day before yesterday. I urged Yu Zhou again to go with me to get the divorce certificate. To my surprise, Yu Zhou, who had repeatedly told me not to be infatuated with him, was dragging his feet and refusing to go. I patiently explained, don't worry, we'll just quietly get a divorce certificate. During holidays or when your parents visit, I'll still keep my promise and act as your fake spouse. Yu Zhou impatiently interrupted me. No way, do you think a military marriage can be dissolved so easily? If we divorce, we have to report it to the army. Once the report is submitted, my parents will definitely find out. Shen Sujuan, are you deliberately trying to harm Wanwan? I was momentarily speechless. I really hadn't expected that getting a divorce would also require reporting to the army. Yu Zhou's stern face softened into a faint smile as he saw my speechless expression. Comfortingly, he said to me, you don't have to worry about your innocence. I've transferred Wanwan to the military hospital. In the future, Both Wan and I will stay in the army. You'll be living at home alone. I suddenly brightened up. So, can I bring someone back to stay? Yu Zhou's smiling face suddenly stiffened. You want to bring that man to our home? I nodded vigorously. Don't worry, I won't cheat on you. To the outside world, I'll just say he's my brother. Yu Zhou opened his mouth, as if wanting to say something, but couldn't get the words out. I know he was trying to say that men and women should keep their distance, telling me not to get too close to other men, but it was him who brought it up first. Mentioning how he was staying in the barracks with his white moonlight, Qin Changwan. Now he's forbidding me from bringing anyone back. Isn't that just contradicting himself? Seeing him fuming with frustration, I held back my laughter and deliberately said to him, if you think bringing someone to the military compound would cause gossip, how about you give me some money so I can rent a place outside for him to stay? Yu Zhou was stunned for a moment, then exploded like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Shen Sujuan, you actually want to use my money to support some random man outside? 7. Watching Yu Zhou's frantic expression, I patiently explained again, Li Zhanfeng is not some random man, he is the man of my heart. If it weren't for their family's poor background, and my parents' adamant refusal, I wouldn't have had to fake a marriage with you. The same words, when directed at Qin Changwan, made Yu Zhou think I was considerate and sensible. But when directed at Li Zhanfeng, Yu Zhou's expression was as if he had just eaten a pile of excrement. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. In my previous life, I had also hinted to Yu Zhou to keep a proper distance from Qin Changwan. After all, he is still nominally my husband, yet he is entangled with his single first love. If this gets out, it won't just be embarrassing for my in-laws, but it could also negatively impact his future. But back then, what did Yu Zhou say? Shen Sujuan, don't use your filthy rural mindset to insult the love between Wan and me. Although we admire each other, we have never crossed that line. Me and Wan, we are pure revolutionary comrades. Now, I'm returning those exact words back. Yu Zhou, I've already said it. Zhan Feng and I only have a pure revolutionary friendship. Although we admire each other, we have never crossed the line. If you really don't believe me, then let's get a divorce. Yu Zhou is not yet the commanding general of 30 years later, the one who always gets his way. Worried that his in-laws might harm Qin Changwan, Yu Zhou wouldn't dare to actually divorce me. Taking a deep breath, Yu Zhou's face turned ashen as he pulled out a dozen Great Unity bills from his shirt pocket and threw them at me in a fit of anger. Take it and support your wild man, and hide him far away. Don't let me see him. 8. I left the compound without looking back after getting the money. There was the sound of a glass shattering on the floor behind me, but what was there for him to be angry about? After all, it was he who suggested we become fake spouses. Reborn, I don't want to waste my life at the Yu families anymore. I'm going to save the man who, in my previous life, gave me the last bit of warmth after my death. In my past life, Yu Zhou insisted on divorcing me before I died. I know he didn't want me to be buried in the Yu family's ancestral tomb, even in death. He wanted to keep that spot by his side for the woman he loved. After I died, my husband's family wouldn't let me in, and my birth family wouldn't take me back. I almost became a lonely ghost buried in a mass grave. It was Li Zhanfeng, the man to whom I had once given a few wild vegetable buns, in the name of husband and wife. He spent money to buy me a grave plot, thinking of my past life, when that man personally engraved wife of Li Zhanfeng on the tombstone. My heart ached with a mix of emotions. Li Zhanfeng is still locked in a cattle shed for speculation and profiteering. I spent some money, mentioned the names of my in-laws, and within half a day, Li Zhanfeng was released from the cattle shed. Brother, that shout of mine completely stunned Li Zhanfeng. Fortunately, he recognized me. The detainees all said he was lucky. If I hadn't come today, Li Zhanfeng would have been sent to the farm tomorrow. On the way back, Li Zhanfeng gave me a teasing look. How come I didn't know I suddenly had a sister? I blushed and for a moment didn't know how to explain. After all, at this point, Li Zhanfeng and I weren't even close acquaintances, let alone someone who would buy me a grave. Seeing my flushed face and my silence, Li Zhanfeng thought he had gone too far with his joke and quickly apologized to me. Comrade Shen Sujuan, your great kindness is beyond words. From now on, you're like a real sister to me. If anyone dares to bully you, just call out, and I will go through fire and water without hesitation. I looked up. Really, could you pretend to be my partner? 9. I rented a small courtyard for Li Zhanfeng, 3 streets away from the military dependence compound. In my previous life, at this time, I naively kept my promise, doing laundry and cooking for Yu Zhou every day. pretending to be a loving newlywed couple with him in the family compound. In this life, I don't want to cover up the piece for Yu Zhou and Qin Changwan anymore. Yu Zhou took the meat, eggs, and milk issued by the army and eagerly delivered them to Qin Changwan to nourish her body. I took the rice, flour, and oil issued by the unit and personally made a pot of Li Zhanfeng's favorite braised noodles. Yu Zhou took his salary and ration coupons and took Qin Changwan to the supply and marketing cooperative, watched movies, and dined out. I took my salary and ration coupons and brought Li Zhanfeng to the scrapyard. Li Zhanfeng's family used to run a pawn shop, and he had a sharp eye, always able to find valuable treasures among a pile of junk. At first, Yu Zhou was very happy because I never asked where he went or who he was with. After marrying me, he could still be by Qin Changwan's side, just as he used to be, but not long after. He came to talk to me on his own initiative. Suwan, we can't go on like this anymore. Haven't you noticed that our home is becoming less and less like a home? I remained silent. Yu Zhou will never know that in my previous life, I truly considered this place my home. Yu Zhou talks a good game, saying he'll give me his salary and his love to his white moonlight, but in reality, he only gave me his salary the first month, and I never saw a single cent of it after that. His salary and coupons all turned into Qin Changwan's movie tickets, snow cream, dresses, and various fresh candies and pastries. Only I, like a fool, saved every penny of my salary, adding new furniture, bedding, curtains, and dishes to this home, transforming the once cold dormitory into a warm little haven. I also saved all the meat, sugar, and egg coupons issued by the unit. When Yu Zhou comes back on vacation, I'll buy meat and eggs to make him all sorts of delicious meals. Yu Zhou tells me not to daydream, yet at the same time, he comfortably enjoys the contributions I make to this family. Unfortunately, that naive Shin Sujuan from my previous life is already gone. This time around, I no longer care if the house has a warm, lively atmosphere, nor do I care if Yu Zhou comes back on vacation and ends up cold or hungry. I moved everything the company gave me to Li Zhanfeng's place. I eat there every day and only come back afterward. Yu Zhou always thought that at least when I came home on vacation, I would have a hot meal waiting, but to his surprise, what greeted him was the cold lock on the door. The house felt cold and empty, as if it hadn't been lived in for a long time. The thermos was empty, and the coal stove by the door seemed to have been unused for a long time. He thought I had left the compound and hurried to ask the neighbor next door. To his surprise, the neighbor said, "Your wife, she went to her brother's place. She said you weren't home, and she couldn't finish cooking by herself, so now she's cooking at her brother's place and comes back after dinner." Yu Zhou was simmering with anger, sitting in the house, waiting until 8 p.m. to see me sitting on the back of a bicycle. Li Zhanfeng rode the bicycle and sent me back. 10. After that day, Yu Zhou seemed like a completely different person. He no longer used work as an excuse to spend all day at the military base with his white moonlight. He even started doing what other officials in the compound did, picking up 2 dishes and a bag of steamed buns from the canteen after work. He also bought 200 coal balls for the house and, every day after work, would heat the dishes and buns on the coal stove. Then, like a devoted husband, he waited for me to come home from work to have dinner. If it were my past self, I would have been moved to tears and completely fallen into this man's sweet trap, but now, faced with Yu Zhou's deliberate acts of kindness, I simply responded with the same cold tone he used in my past life. "Comrade Yu Zhou, don't forget, we are only a fake couple in name. I only have Zhanfeng in my heart. Please don't harbor any unrealistic fantasies about me." With a loud bang, the large coarse porcelain bowl filled with congee fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Yu Zhou stood still for a moment, then lowered his head and silently fetched a broom and dustpan. He carefully swept up the broken porcelain pieces and the congee covered in dust. Seeing me stubbornly sitting beside him, refusing to eat the food he brought back from the cafeteria, Yu Zhou let out a wry smile. "Sorry, I overstepped. I just didn't expect that you really liked that man so much. I thought that since you agreed to a fake marriage with me, maybe you felt something. Anyway, today was my fault, and I apologize. From now on, I won't interfere in your affairs with that man." I looked up, meeting his gaze calmly. "It's best that you think that way. After all, we were just a fake couple by agreement. However, if it really bothers you, I can move to Zhanfeng's place. We can tell others that you're not home, and I'm afraid to stay here alone." "No, don't move there." Yu Zhou suddenly stood up in agitation. "Stay put. I'll return to the barracks tonight. You can have this place." Yu Zhou lowered his head. Eyes locked onto my face as if searching for the faintest trace of reluctance, yet what he found was not a shred of hesitation, only relief and quiet contentment. At this moment, he made the crushing realization, His wife in name only seemed to genuinely dislike him, not one bit. 11. That evening, Yu Zhou left me 50 yuan along with ration coupons, 2 jin for meat, 1 jin for sugar, and several for fabric. Then, he returned to the military base overnight. Seeing that Yu Zhou didn't even spend the night at home during his break, the neighbors looked at me with a mix of mockery and sympathy. Sister Lu from next door kindly reminded me, Suwan, your family's deputy battalion commander Yu is so handsome, with a bright future and a good background. There are countless women out there who are interested in him. You must keep a close eye on him, and it's best to have a son while you're young, so you don't end up being abandoned by some external fox spirit, and regret it later when it's too late to cry. I smiled and explained that Yu Zhou was indeed working overtime at the office, not out fooling around with women. Sister Lu clearly didn't believe me, looking at me as if I were a fool. From that day on, Yu Zhou indeed kept his promise and never came back. Just so, every month someone would bring me half of his salary and various vouchers. I accepted everything without hesitation. This was something he owed me from a past life. In the blink of an eye, the time came for my former father-in-law's liver cancer hospitalization. Upon receiving the telegram, Yu Zhou immediately drove over to pick me up, but this time, he couldn't bring himself to demand, as he had in our past life, that I quit my job and return to care for his parents. After spending 3 days in his hometown, Yu Zhou handed his mother a passbook before we left, suggesting she hire a caregiver for his father. My mother-in-law shot me a disapproving glance and hesitantly asked, "Your father is this sick, and neither of you can stay?" The meaning behind my mother-in-law's words was obvious. Yu Zhou is now a deputy battalion commander, at a crucial stage for making achievements and getting promoted, so of course, he can't take an extended leave to take care of his father. She was hinting at me to voluntarily resign or take a leave of absence without pay to take care of my father-in-law. 12. I glanced at Yu Zhou. He averted his eyes guiltily, avoiding my gaze. In my previous life, I was trapped by my in-laws' tears, the gossip of those around me, and moral coercion, ultimately confined to the Yu family's ancestral home, living a childless life for 12 long years. In this life, I won't be that naive pushover anymore. After all, I'm not the real daughter-in-law of the Yu family. If my in-laws want their daughter-in-law to come serve them, they should go find Chen Chengwan. My mother-in-law is too cultured to play the villainous mother-in-law role, though her constant meaningful glances spoke volumes. I pretended not to notice and said firmly, I have made my decision to sacrifice the needs of my family for the greater good, dedicating my life to the socialist cause. I cannot abandon my work to return and care for the elderly. However, as a daughter-in-law, I must still fulfill my filial duties. Therefore, I told my mother-in-law that I would not take a single cent of Yu Zhou's salary or any of the various vouchers issued by his unit. I would have him send everything back to be used for hiring caregivers for my father-in-law and for medical expenses. I kept my word. The second month, I did not accept the money and vouchers Yu Zhou had someone bring back. However, Chen Chengwan, the pampered daughter of a capitalist, will likely find her future less comfortable without the extra half of her salary. 13. In this life, I don't have to toil like an ox or a horse for the Yu family, serving my in-laws. I now have more time to go treasure hunting with Li Zhanfeng in various places. We brought money and grain coupons to scrap stations in some remote communes. We managed to find many out-of-print books, damaged antiques and paintings, and some artifacts that people used as broken pots for planting vegetables, all for very little money. With the money we earned, we rescued many antique and book restoration masters who were still undergoing re-education in cattle sheds. With their help, we created many convincing fake artifacts, sell fakes at high prices to foreigners, keep the genuine ones all within the country. In this chaotic era, we are doing our best to carefully protect the cultural relics that belong to our nation. We strive to reduce the regrets of cultural relics unable to return home for future generations in China. When things get busy, I just stay at Li Zhanfeng's place. It wasn't until I hadn't gone home for several days that Yu Zhou suddenly came looking for me. 14. I saw Yu Zhou and Li Zhanfeng leaning closely together, carefully studying a damaged rare book. Yu Zhou walked in with a dark expression, glaring at me angrily. Shen Sujuan, is this what you meant when you said you were completely innocent with him, that you never crossed the line? I just came from the family compound, and they said you haven't been home for days. You wouldn't have, with him, would you? I impatiently interrupted his speculation. Comrade Yu Zhou, no matter what relationship I have with Comrade Li Zhanfeng, it seems none of your business, right? Don't forget, we're just a fake couple in name only. Yu Zhou gritted his teeth and whispered furiously. A fake couple is still a couple. the way you're acting, staying out all night with a man, how do you think that makes me look? I stood up, unflinchingly meeting his gaze. Only now you realize that a man and woman staying out all night alone would raise eyebrows, when you abandoned your newlywed wife to moon around with your Wan, catching movies, shopping downtown, boating in the park. Did it ever cross your mind how people would judge me, Yu Zhou? You're awfully concerned about me cheating on you. Could it be, you've actually fallen for me? 15. My words hit Yu Zhou like a sledgehammer to the face. In an instant, his expression turned ashen. He wanted to say he was deeply in love with Qin Chengwan, that he could never possibly shift his affections to another woman, but Qin Sujuan was his lawfully wedded wife. Isn't it natural for a husband to fall for his wife? Or perhaps, it wasn't love for Qin Sujuan, but rather, because she was his legally wedded wife, he found himself unconsciously developing a strange sense of possessiveness toward her. Right, no matter what, Qin Sujuan is his legally married wife, and military marriages are protected by law. Taking a deep breath, Yu Zhou forced a smile and said to me, Suwan, I was wrong about the past. I didn't consider your feelings and reputation. Come back with me first. I promise to try and spend less time alone with Wan in the future. I will also give you the respect you deserve. Let's continue living together as we used to, shall we? 16. Watching Yu Zhou with pleading eyes, I suddenly had an almost absurd thought. Could he really be falling for me instead? At that moment, Li Zhanfeng spoke up. Comrade Yu Zhou, I'm afraid that won't do. As you know, Suwan and I love each other. Privately, I don't want to see Suwan living with another man. As a man, I think you can understand how I feel, right? Yu Zhou suddenly clenched his fists. Glaring sharply at Li Zhanfeng, with a cold tone, he said, Comrade Li Zhanfeng, no matter what your relationship with Suwan was in the past, please remember that as long as Suwan and I haven't officially filed for divorce, she, Qin Suwan, is my lawful wife. Yu Zhou, Li Zhanfeng chuckled lightly, then I'll wait for the day you divorce Sujuan. Yu Zhou stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The next day, an urgent telegram arrived from the hometown. The father-in-law had passed away in the hospital after failing to be resuscitated. Yu Zhou drove over to pick me up to go back for the funeral. Throughout the journey, I was in a daze. To my surprise, without my meticulous care, my father-in-law's advanced liver cancer didn't even last half a year before he was gone. At the funeral, seeing my mother-in-law faint from crying, I sighed and pulled Yu Zhou aside. I think my mother-in-law isn't in good health. If you have time, you should take her to the hospital for a thorough checkup. Although my mother-in-law has always had a calculating streak towards me in both lifetimes, but at least before she passed away in her previous life, she left me 5,000 yuan and a house in the provincial capital. For that reason, in this life, I hope her tumor can be discovered early, and there might still be a chance of a cure, but I never expected that at my father-in-law's funeral, my mother-in-law would slap me in front of both families' relatives. I was completely stunned. 17. At my father-in-law's grave, my mother-in-law glared at me with bloodshot eyes, as if I were the one who had killed him. Qin Sujuan, you are not fit to be our Yu family's daughter-in-law. Your father-in-law is hospitalized with cancer, and you, as his daughter-in-law, can still go back to work as if nothing happened. How could our Yu family have married such an unfilial daughter-in-law like you? If it weren't for you, how could Yu Zhou's father have left us so soon? Hearing my mother-in-law's unreasonable accusations and curses, I couldn't help but laugh in anger. As you said, I am just the daughter-in-law of the Yu family, and Yu Zhou is the biological son of his father. He doesn't come back to take care of his father, so why should I, as his daughter-in-law, take care of his dad? The mother-in-law sharply scolded, just because you're Yu Zhou's wife, and Yu Zhou is doing important work in the army, as a military spouse, you should take care of his parents and hold down the fort at home. I really didn't want to argue with my mother-in-law, so I turned to look at Yu Zhou. There's no point in hiding it anymore. Do you want to tell your mom yourself, or should I? Yu Zhou looked up blankly, realizing the implication in my words. His eyes instantly filled with fear. Suwan, please, don't say anything, okay? His mother pulled him aside, glaring at me. Speak, let her speak. I want to hear what reason she has for not being filial to her in-laws. Yu Zhou, held back by his mother, could only desperately plead with his eyes. Suwan, don't say it, please. Yu Zhou, it's too late. Every time you chose to make me take the blame and suffer, you and I were already even. I looked at my mother-in-law and, in Yu Zhou's terrified and desperate gaze, I told her everything, about our fake marriage and how I covered up Yu Zhou's secret meetings with Qin Chengwan as his wife. You, all of you. My mother-in-law widened her eyes, gasping for breath, thudding down. She fainted in front of her father-in-law's tombstone. 18. After the funeral for my father-in-law, I insisted on buying the earliest train ticket and left the city, despite Yu Zhou's pleas for me to stay. As I was leaving, Yu Zhou asked me with a wry smile. "Can't you stay until after the 7th day?" I shook my head. "Sorry, after all, this is just a fake marriage. I'm standing in for your father's mourning, but it's not proper. I think, at a time like this, you should have the person you truly want to marry come over." But how could Qin Chengwan come over at a time like this? In her previous life, she didn't want to bear the wrath of her in-laws, nor did she want to take on the responsibility of caring for them, so she had Yu Zhou keep me by my in-laws' side under the guise of being a married couple. Only after my in-laws passed away, and these burdens were gone, did Qin Chengwan reveal her true colors, having Yu Zhou force me to divorce her so she could take my place. This lifetime, with my father-in-law passing away so early and my mother-in-law still harboring resentment, Qin Chengwan dared not come near to provoke any bad luck. It is said that the day after the news of my father-in-law's death reached her, Qin Chengwan applied for a medical aid mission at the border. Military orders are absolute. She couldn't return for at least 2 years. 2 years later, time had softened all wounds. She returned triumphant, remaining that purest moonlight in Yu Zhou's heart. This woman played her cards brilliantly. Unfortunately, in this life, I have already seen through everything and no longer wish to be a mere pawn in her and Yu Zhou's love story. After everything was made clear, I submitted a divorce application to the organization, but for some reason, Yu Zhou refuses to sign. 19. I moved out of the military dependence compound. However, Yu Zhou is right to remind me that living together with Li Zhanfeng before the official divorce is not beneficial for either of us. Therefore, I moved into the unit dormitory. In my spare time, I began to sort through some of the damaged scrolls I collected from the junkyard. I plan to write a book to let the whole world know that these magnificent cultural heritages belong to the Chinese nation. Decades later, if any shameless country tries to claim these cultures as their own by rushing to apply for heritage status, this book will be the irrefutable evidence that slaps them in the face. I didn't expect that while I was writing in seclusion. A huge uproar had already erupted in the family compound. 20. After learning that Yu Zhou and I were in a fake marriage, my mother-in-law found out where Qin Chengwan was providing aid. She actually used her father-in-law's connections to rush to the front lines and bring Qin Chengwan back. In the family compound, Qin Chengwan trembled and hid behind Yu Zhou. Her delicate, petite face was covered with bright red handprints. The mother-in-law glared at Yu Zhou, her voice cold. "If you still recognize me as your mother, today, right here, in front of everyone, cut all ties with this woman." Yu Zhou shook his head in pain. "Mom, I know you're heartbroken since Dad passed away, but this matter has nothing to do with Wan Wan. How can you take it out on her?" The mother-in-law shouted. "How is it unrelated? If it weren't for her, you and Su Wan would have already been true husband and wife. I know Su Wan's character. If she had truly been our Yu family's daughter-in-law, when your father was diagnosed with cancer, she would have quit her job and come back to take care of him wholeheartedly. Your father wouldn't have passed away so early. It's all this vixen's fault. She destroyed your family with Su Wan and even caused your father's death. And yet, you still want to protect her." The mother-in-law's pointed accusations made Yu Zhou and Qin Chengwan retreat step by step, their faces turning pale. In this era, the punishment for engaging in illicit relationships is particularly severe. Moreover, both Yu Zhou and Qin Chengwan are military personnel. If their inappropriate relationship is confirmed, not only will they not be promoted, but they might also be immediately discharged from the military. Yu Zhou begged her mother-in-law to stop talking. Qin Chengwan was also scared and tearfully promised to keep her distance from Yu Zhou in the future and never disrupt their marital relationship again. Unfortunately, it was all too late. 21. In the military dependence compound, all residents are cadres and their families from the same regiment. Yu Zhou is not the highest-ranking official there. After the mother-in-law caused a commotion in the dependence compound, Yu Zhou and Qin Chengwan were suspended and under investigation the next day. The investigation team also came to our unit, found me, and asked me about my husband's relationship with Qin Chengwan. I didn't kick someone when they're down, I just told the truth. Yu Zhou and I were indeed a fake couple in name only. On our wedding night, he told me that he had a sweetheart and vowed to remain chaste for her, so we could only be a fake couple. As for his sweetheart, whether it's Qin Chengwan, whether the two of them have done anything to betray their families, I don't know. Although I didn't kick them while they were down, it's unfortunate that Yu Zhou and Qin Chengwan were far too ostentatious in the military. The investigation team only had to ask a few people around them to gather a large amount of evidence. They went to the park together, ate at state-run restaurants, and watched movies together. Even after we got married, Yu Zhou completely ignored me as his wife. Instead, he handed over his monthly salary and all kinds of vouchers to Qin Chengwan. The evidence is irrefutable. Soon, both Yu Zhou and Qin Chengwan were expelled from the military. The house and the family compound was also reclaimed by the military. My divorce application submitted to the military was quickly approved. On the day of the divorce, Yu Zhou looked disheveled with a scruffy beard, wearing a wrinkled military green shirt, and gazed at me with a look of regret. Su Wan, is there any chance for us to start over in the future? I smiled. There was never a beginning between us, so how can there be a future? 22. I saw Yu Zhou again, 5 years later, after my new book was published. It was a great success, and I received an invitation from the Literary Federation in my hometown to return for a symposium. As I entered the venue, I suddenly saw a familiar figure at the door. Yu Zhou, why is he working as a security guard here? Yu Zhou seemed to have spotted me, but he quickly turned away, pretending not to have seen me. I didn't approach him to acknowledge the recognition. Sometimes, pretending not to know someone is a form of dignity for adults. However, during the dinner after the symposium, my ex-husband inevitably came up. It said that after he was discharged from the military, my mother-in-law had already smoothed things over to send him to the grassroots for training, but at that moment, Yu Zhou's white moonlight couldn't bear the hardship of the grassroots and ran off with a nouveau riche. Yu Zhou was deeply disheartened and refused to stay at the grassroots level anymore. Despite his mother-in-law's objections, he sold most of his family's assets, raised enough capital, and planned to go into business. He intended to achieve great success and make Qin Chengwan regret her actions. Unfortunately, Yu Zhou had no talent for business. In less than a year, he lost all his capital. At this moment, his mother-in-law, just like in his previous life, was diagnosed with a tumor. Yu Zhou sold off the last bit of the Yu family's property, but still couldn't save his mother-in-law's life. After his mother-in-law passed away, the only house they had was also reclaimed by her former employer, with nowhere to go. Yu Zhou had to turn to an old comrade in arms to find a job as a security guard. At least, he had a place to eat and sleep. It was said that Qin Chengwan followed that nouveau riche to the south, assuming she was going to enjoy a life of luxury. To her surprise, he had already married a local woman. He only tricked her into coming back to have a son because his wife couldn't conceive. With her pride and ambition, how could Qin Chengwan possibly be willing to bear a child for someone else? Relying on her familiarity with pharmaceuticals, she secretly concocted a poison and killed the millionaire's first wife. Just as she thought she could successfully take her place, the first wife's brothers came knocking. Without any regard for justice or evidence, they tied Qin Chengwan up, bound her with stones, stuffed her into a sack, and threw her into the sea. In those days, there were many illegal immigrants along the coast, and several bodies would wash ashore every day, leaving the police overwhelmed with cases. Besides, Qin Chengwan was only missing, and no one reported her disappearance. It wasn't until a year later that one of the brothers of the original wife was caught for a crime, bringing this old case back to light. However, due to the passage of too much time, Qin Chengwan's body was long gone and couldn't be found. Nonetheless, none of this concerns me anymore. Li Zhongfeng has once again collected many precious cultural relics for me. It's time to start preparing my second book. Fortunately, in recent years, Li Zhongfeng has returned to his family's traditional business and opened a pawn shop. With him taking care of the kids at home, I can focus on preparing my new book. The end. That's the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. In 1987, Lu Shiguang died while working outside, and his body was never found. All I got was a message saying I was free. The Lu family considered me unlucky and beat me until I was crippled, then kicked me out with nothing. To avoid tarnishing my family's reputation and to find Lu Shiguang's body to settle my own conscience, I went out to work alone in search of answers. Later, when I saw Lu Shiguang living with another woman, and their child could already call them father and mother, I realized that Lu Shiguang had faked his death and disappeared. Married, I rushed out to kill the couple. But the next moment, unable to dodge in time due to my leg disability, I was hit and killed by a truck. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the moment when the news of Lu Shiguang's death was delivered. I clenched my fists. This time I want all of you to cry for me. What happened to my son? Explain it clearly, the old lady shouted at the top of her lungs, making sure everyone in the courtyard heard her. A crowd gathered to watch the spectacle. Sister Lu, I really don't know what happened to Shiguang. All I know is that he's dead, and they never found the body. I was just packing up his things. I found a letter in the bundle when I opened it. I'm here to deliver it on behalf of Shiguang. I don't know anything else, Ma Shangjin, who worked with Lu Shiguang, finished speaking and shoved the letter into my hands before running off, afraid that I would stop him to ask more questions. I knew that Ma Shangjin was just an actor paid by Lu Shiguang to deliver the letter. He wasn't professional, he couldn't pull off the act of Lu's family cutting the bridge after crossing the river. When it comes to acting, one must observe the in-laws. Sure enough, the mother-in-law wailed, "Oh, no, my son, my light. I only have this one son, what will I do without my son? Oh, heavens, open your eyes and see. Why does the one who should die live, and the one who shouldn't die perish? Ah, ah." The mother-in-law plopped down on the ground, wailing and beating her chest as if she were on the verge of death. While crying, she glared at me, implying that I was the one to blame. The same thing happened in my previous life. On the day we received the news of Lu Shiguang's death, my in-laws fainted several times from grief. And no one could console them. I still believed the mother-in-law and father-in-law were truly heartbroken. Because Lu Shiguang had 3 older sisters, he was the only son in the family. Losing Lu Shiguang was like the sky falling for the elderly couple, so they cursed me, calling me an ill omen, saying I had killed their only son, and I endured it. My mother-in-law hit me with a shovel, breaking my leg and telling me to die, but I endured, because I understand the pain of losing a loved one. They lost their son, and I lost a good man who didn't mind that I couldn't have children. Like them, I lost the support for the rest of my life. They forced me to divorce Lu Shiguang, kicked me out of the Lu family, and I went to work with my crippled leg, searching for Lu Shiguang's body. Once I found Lu Shiguang's body, I could die with a clear conscience, free of any debt to the Lu family. Only when I was about to die did I realize that the Lu family had been plotting against me all along. It was because Lu Shiguang had found another woman and had a child. I'd been working so hard for their family all these years, and it's not easy to just kick me out without a reason. All their plans are aimed at making me leave with nothing. Right now, I feel I must use magic to defeat magic. The crowd is growing, and while my mother-in-law is waiting for this moment, so am I. Before my mother-in-law could scold me, I plopped down on the ground and started wailing. Oh, my life is so bitter. My man is gone just like that. I didn't even get a child out of it. The fortune teller said he was inauspicious for me, but I didn't believe it at the time, for his promise of being good to me. I married him. Little did I know, the fortune teller wasn't wrong at all. He really was inauspicious for me, leaving me with no one to rely on. He always said he'd go out to work, to earn money for me and too, but he never brought back a single penny all year round, and I had to work to support him, even subsidizing his expenses. And that's just how it went. In the forum, as long as people are fine, but this person just disappeared without a trace. Alive, no one is seen. Dead, no body is found. What kind of fate do I have? God, oh Lord, you are unfair. Those wicked, deceitful, and deserving of death are still alive, while those who shouldn't die are gone. I cried my heart out, revealing all of Lu Shiguang's deeds over the years to everyone. If I hadn't, everyone would still be deceived by the illusion created by the old lady, the illusion of Lu Shiguang being filial and earning money. I also turned my mother-in-law's attempt to slander me as a curse on Lu Shiguang against her, and I cursed her wholeheartedly. Lu Shiguang deserved to die, but he didn't. In my previous life, I was a good person, yet I died. Fortunately, heaven has shown mercy, and I have been reborn. I must make the most of this opportunity. The people around immediately started pointing fingers. I said there are many people going out to work, so why did Shiguang make money? It turns out he didn't make any money either, and his wife had to support him. Isn't that right? Shiguang's wife scrimped and saved, not even willing to buy a thread of cloth. Such a filial daughter-in-law. But it's just bad luck. But in my opinion, the Lu family was destined to have no sons. Don't you remember how the old couple had 4 daughters? Kept 3, gave 1 away, and only after donating money at the Guanyin temple did they finally have Shiguang. How could I forget? No wonder the fortune teller said Lu's wife had a hard life. It really was tough. Hearing this, the mother-in-law got upset, got up from the ground, and shouted at the gossips, "Shut up, all of you. Do you even understand? What? My son was killed by Su Yeshu. Su Yeshu is the one who killed my son. My son was fine. Su Yeshu, you evil star. You killed my son and now you spread rumors. I'll kill you." As the mother-in-law spoke, her eyes darted around, and the father-in-law handed her a shovel from the side. The mother-in-law grabbed it and came straight at me. I remember this shovel. In my previous life, it was this very shovel that broke my leg, leaving me in endless pain during wind and rain. I shouted into the crowd, "Murder, murder. The Lu family is trying to cover up a murder." My voice was loud because I saw the neighbor's car parked at the door. That car belongs to a relative of the neighbor's aunt. Her relative is an officer with some influence. Today I will use this officer to regain my own benefits. After shouting, I won't really let my mother-in-law hit me, I ran and dodged a few shovels from her. My mother-in-law was so angry she couldn't straighten up, pointing at me and cursing, "How dare you run? You've cursed my son to death and you can't even lay an egg. What good are you to the Liu family? I'll beat you to death today to accompany my son." The mother-in-law was full of vigor, gritting her teeth. She wasn't grieving over her son's death, only fixated on making me accompany him in death. The crowd watched and advised, "Oh, Mrs. Liu, what are you fighting about? Shiguang is already dead, and you still expect your daughter-in-law to be filial. To be filial, that is, exactly. The dead cannot be brought back to life, but the living must go on. It's better to accept things as they are. What's destined to be will be, and what's not meant to be. Don't force it, don't force it. Shut up, what business is it of yours? All of you are here talking nonsense. Don't you all have sons? Do you think your sons won't die? You'll be happy when they do, won't you?" That remark from the mother-in-law really stirred up a hornet's nest. Nobody wants to hear such ill-omened talk. The aunties immediately surrounded her, scolding, "Mrs. Liu, watch your tongue. Your son's death probably came from all that nasty gossip you've been spreading." "Exactly, you sold 4 daughters to fund your son, yet couldn't even keep him alive. Who knows what sins brought this upon you?" The mother-in-law stood defiantly with hands on hips, retorting, "That's nonsense. When did I ever sell my daughters?" She bristled like a furious cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Oh really? Let's hear it from everyone. Didn't the Lius give away 1 daughter? Charged $320 as nutrition fees, and what's the difference with the other 3 daughters? 200 dowry for each girl, not a single penny returned. Pure daylight robbery, making your daughter and son-in-law harvest wheat and shuck corn without even feeding them, feeding your grandson husks while your own son eats grain. Do you think nobody notices your favoritism, or is everyone just blind?" The mother-in-law flushed crimson and hissed through clenched teeth, "That's a damned lie." Outnumbered and outshouted, the old woman was losing ground fast, too busy defending herself to chase after me. I seized the moment to dash out and intercepted the man who had just stepped out of the car. "Comrade, my mother-in-law is trying to kill me. Please help me. Call the police." Zhang Zeki glanced at his guard beside him. The uniformed officer immediately stepped forward and shouted, "Quiet down. If anyone has grievances, bring them to Commander Zhang. He'll see justice is served." The crowd fell silent instantly at these words. All eyes turned to Zhang Zeki and me standing beside him. Seizing the moment, I asked him, "Comrade Division Commander, can you truly serve the people?" Zhang Zeki shot me a piercing glance, as if trying to see through my very soul. There was something different in his gaze, a quiet lethality I'd never seen in any man before. It sent chills down my spine for a fleeting moment. "You heard my aide say I'm a division commander. If you've been wronged, I can take it up with your bureau chief." That immediately perked me up. There was no way my in-laws would let me speak. They came charging over. The elder approached Zhang Zeki with a smile. "If it isn't Commander Zhang, it's been ages since you last visited after your wife passed away. Haven't seen your auntie in so long. What brings you back today?" His marriage had been arranged by that very aunt. When I married into the family, I heard Zhang Zeki's wife was already gone. He hadn't returned for years. Returned. It just so happens that today marks my return from my past life, so I figured I'd make the most of it. The older man pulled out a cigarette case from his pocket and offered Zhang Zeki a smoke. Zhang blocked the cigarette with his hand, his expression turning serious as he said, "Uncle Liu, I'll pass on the smoke. We've got strict rules about not taking so much as a needle from civilians. Surely you wouldn't want me breaking protocol." Those words were calm yet devastating. My father-in-law immediately pocketed his cigarette case, forcing an awkward smile as he waved his hand. "That won't do." "Won't do at all, Commander Zhang. Please excuse our poor hospitality. Our family has some private matters to attend to today, so we won't keep you for tea. You'd better hurry over to your aunt's place." Zhang Zeki glanced at me, noticing my hesitation, and said, "I'm in no rush. Since auntie happens to be out, I'll settle this case properly. Guards, go fetch the chief of this precinct's police station." The guard acknowledged the order and drove off. The mother-in-law grew fearful and tugged at her father-in-law's sleeve, but he shook her off. Turning to Zhang Zeki with an ingratiating smile, he said, "How could we trouble you with this? You must have important business now that you're finally back. Our family matters are trivial. Please don't listen to my daughter-in-law's nonsense." I stepped forward, hands on hips, and declared, "No way. Commander Zhang promised to stand up for us. This is the perfect chance to tell him our situation." Dad, haven't we been unable to find Shiguang's body? If the dead aren't properly buried, their spirits will turn vengeful. We absolutely must beg Commander Zhang to help us recover Shiguang's remains. My mother-in-law shot me dagger looks and hissed through clenched teeth. Our petty affairs aren't worth troubling an officer. Get your ass home this instant, or you'll regret this. Ignoring my mother-in-law, I turned to Zhang Zeki and asked, Commander Zhang, as a soldier of the people, you'll surely uphold justice for us, right? We're only seeking fairness today. If Shiguang's death won't rest in peace without justice. The in-laws still insisted that Zhang Zeki shouldn't interfere with the Liu family's affairs. General Zhang is busy. Stop making unreasonable demands, Zhang Zeki said with a wry smile. I'm not busy today. Since she called me a soldier of the people, how could I ignore my fellow villagers' troubles? My aunt lives in this neighborhood. Such incidents must be distressing for elders like her. Don't worry, Uncle Liu. I'll help you get justice for Shiguang, and make things right. The in-laws, their faces looked like they'd swallowed something vile. Meanwhile, I secretly relished the moment. When people noticed Zhang Zeki's intervention, they assumed it was just for appearances. Everyone chimed in. Commander Zhang has such a kind heart. Going out of his way to stand up for your Liu family, shouldn't you thank him? Exactly. Commander Zhang is a truly upright official. You're so fortunate he happened to return. Hurry up and thank Commander Zhang, the old man said stiffly. Thank you, Commander Zhang. Don't mention it. It's my duty. Parents-in-law. I ushered Zhang Zeki inside, and immediately a crowd gathered outside the door that simply wouldn't disperse no matter what. I took out the letter and handed it to Zhang Zeki, saying, Commander Zhang, this is Liu Shiguang's letter. Ma Shangjing claims it's his final testament, but I can't make sense of it. Could you take a look? My in-laws turned pale with fright, wanting to snatch back the letter but lacking the courage. They could only glare at me, with deep hurt in my voice. I protested, Mom, Dad, why are you glaring at me? I'm only trying to get justice for Shiguang. If we don't let Commander Zhang see this, when will we ever recover Shiguang's body to give him a proper burial? Finally losing her composure, mother-in-law hissed through clenched teeth, you actually want Shiguang dead, don't you? With feigned innocence, I said, Mom, you're overthinking this. Shiguang was my husband. He never held my infertility against me. Why would I ever want him dead? Besides, isn't he already gone? How can you accuse me of wishing his death? Mom, this is slander, pure character assassination. Mother-in-law. Zhang Zeki glanced at me, amusement flickering in his eyes. Me, what's so funny about this? Did he see through my act? No way. Of course I want Liu Shiguang dead now, to avenge my murder in the previous life. You, my mother-in-law raised her hand to strike me, but Zhang Zeki slammed his palm on the table. Her hand jerked back instinctively as she quickly retreated to a corner. The room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. My father-in-law reluctantly took his seat and gestured for his wife to pour them tea. Commander Zhang, you've read the letter. What did Shiguang say? Zhang Zeki said with a strange expression, read the letter yourselves first, we'll talk after. When handed the letter, I merely skimmed it, clenched my jaw tightly, and suppressed the hatred in my eyes. In my past life, I held on to this letter for years, reading it daily until I could recite every word, punctuation perfect. I'd been wondering why Liu Shiguang wrote that letter. Did he have some premonition of his impending death, fearing his parents would make life hard for me after he's gone? So he left a posthumous divorce note. Only when I saw him with his mistress did I realize Liu Shiguang had long since fallen out of love. All his kindness was just him using me. He wasn't worried about his parents giving me a hard time. He just wanted a free ride in this marriage. His parents clearly knew the letter's contents beforehand. Reading it with practiced calm, the mother-in-law studied the letter to summon her emotions, finally squeezing out crocodile tears. Oh, that wretched soul. Shiguang's had such a hard life. His father and I had no connections. He had to fight his own battles. Commander Zhang, what's a man to strive for in this world if not an heir? But Suyesha can't bear children. Shiguang's heart ached with bitterness. So he went out to drown his sorrows. That's probably what led to the accident. Shiguang clearly died with resentment in his heart, leaving this letter behind. Today I beg you to rule, grant Shiguang and Suyesha a divorce. Those words aligned perfectly with my own thoughts. Zhang Zeki looked at me and asked, Comrade Su, what are your thoughts? Biting my lip with reddened eyes, I said, Commander Zhang, Shiguang treated me well when he was alive. I swore to stay by his side forever. But now he died under suspicious circumstances. How can I accept being dismissed with just a letter? What if it's the murderer's scheme? How could I ever rest? This insults my devotion to Shiguang. I'll agree to divorce, but only after seeing his body. As his widow, I must observe 3 years of mourning at his graveside before ending our marriage, provided they can find Lu Shiguang's body. The in-laws panicked. Of course they couldn't locate Lu Shiguang's remains without Zhang Zeki around. They could still arrange our divorce certificate without producing a death certificate. Without a death certificate proving he's gone, I won't divorce. That means half this household's assets stay mine. I'll make Lu Shiguang's life a living hell, dead or alive. The in-laws hesitated to speak, just staring at Zhang Zeki, willing him to refuse my demand out of sheer inconvenience. Someone in the crowd muttered, "The Liu's daughter-in-law's capable and kind-hearted. What rotten luck marrying a doomed man. Still, she's got principles, damn it." Even after Shiguang's death we're expected to observe 3 years of mourning. Division Commander Zhang must help recover his remains, or this cold-hearted treatment will break people's spirits. Exactly, what's wrong with being childless? Having the Lu family's daughter-in-law is practically like gaining an extra daughter. The in-laws' expressions grew increasingly grim until the police chief arrived. He shook Zhang Zeki's hand enthusiastically. "Ah, Division Commander Zhang, what an honor. We've been hearing about the rising star from our region. I've long wanted to pay you a visit, but never found the right opportunity. The bureau chief certainly knows how to seize an opportunity, but I won't let him have this chance. Director Song, General Zhang's presence here means he stands with me. Though I understand this matter doesn't actually concern General Zhang, sir. I beg you, as the police chief, to deliver justice for my Shiguang. My poor boy died without leaving a body behind. How can I possibly eat or sleep with this grief?" My sobbing made further conversation impossible for the chief. A glimmer of interest flashed in Zhang Zeki's eyes. The chief's face darkened with embarrassment. He shot a glare at the elderly couple and snapped, "Explain yourselves, what really happened here?" My mother-in-law kept lying through her teeth, spinning this tale. This letter was brought back by Meijin, saying Shiguang died abroad. It contained Shiguang's final wishes. His father and I just want to fulfill his last request to divorce Su Yeshu. That woman's nothing but a jinx. Our Lu family wants nothing to do with her. I sobbed. "Mom, how can you say such heartless things? Everyone knows how well I've treated you, Dad, and Shiguang all along. It's plain as day. I'm starting to think you're scheming to make Shiguang divorce me so he can marry someone fertile, yet you refuse to offer me any compensation. How dare you spout such nonsense?" My father-in-law snapped sharply at me. Undeterred, I pressed on. "Unless I see Lu Shiguang's corpse with my own eyes, he's just hiding from me, trying to divorce me and force me out penniless." "Mom, Dad, is Shiguang really dead? Are you absolutely certain?" My in-laws exchanged nervous glances. Convinced I'd caught on to something. What parent would falsely declare their own son dead? "You're the curse that killed Shiguang. This family wants nothing to do with you. Pack your bags and get out. Get the hell out." My mother-in-law moved to shove me. Zhang Zeki suddenly stood up and pulled me aside, saying coldly to her, "Auntie, you're being too hasty. We haven't even figured out the whole situation yet, and you're already jumping to conclusions. That's not how the party operates. The party always demands we act based on evidence. Comrade Su's request isn't unreasonable. That's going too far." The in-laws were left speechless, only huffing and puffing in anger. I felt somewhat relieved and was truly grateful for Zhang Zeki's help. The bureau chief sent someone to fetch Ma Shangjin for questioning, ironically named Striving Forward but actually spineless and lacking ambition. Zhang Zeki's guard had already given him a verbal warning before bringing him in. Meijin immediately confessed, "I know nothing about this. It was Shiguang who paid me $20 to deliver the letter, saying he's dead. If you've got questions, go ask Shiguang." The elderly couple exclaimed, "Shangjin, don't you dare spread such nonsense." Fearing imprisonment, Ma Shangjin immediately swore, "If I'm lying, may I get hit by a car the moment I step outside." The crowd, cars are rare around here. Even his oath was a safe bet. My turn to perform. Tears streamed down my face like falling peas. "Mom, Dad, did you know Lu Shiguang isn't dead? Is this just because you think I'm barren and want me to divorce him, and now you're trying to make me leave with nothing? Is this your scheme?" My in-laws ignored me. Zhang Zeki said calmly, "This is too bizarre. Faking death is serious business. Director Song, we must investigate thoroughly. Better report it. Every position has its rightful occupant. There's stable work available out of town immediately. Dead weight shouldn't hog opportunities." Zhang Zeki is making threats. The father-in-law finally lost his composure and blurted, "Our family rejects Su Yeshu because she's barren. Our lineage can't end with Shiguang. No heir shall bear your name, Su Yeshu. Let me spell it out for you. You must divorce Shiguang immediately. Don't you dare stand in the way of him fathering children with another woman." Clutching my chest in feigned agony, I cried, "So Shiguang's been seeing someone else? that explains why he never comes home, never sends money, yet expects me to foot the bills, and you all turned a blind eye. You've been using me as your servant while Lu Shiguang squanders my money on his mistress and their bastard child. Director Song, General Zhang, how dare the Lu family bully a defenseless woman like this? I might as well end my life. I threatened to bang my head against the wall. Zhang Zeki grabbed me firmly. I struggled briefly but couldn't break free. The man had brute strength. I shot him a look, still determined to continue my wall-banging performance. Calmly pulling a handkerchief from his pocket, he pressed it into my hand. Dry your tears. With Director Song and me here, you'll get justice. Uncle Lu, tell us exactly what happened. Zhang Zeki spoke up. This matter needed proper closure. Director Song added pressure. Old Lu, some lines shouldn't be crossed. They always leave traces. If you still care about Shiguang's future, the truth should have been told straight. Even if divorce was inevitable, deception was never justified. That single lie defined the whole affair. My in-laws' eyes widened in shock. All they wanted was to leave me penniless. Never did they intend to inconvenience Lu Shiguang. The in-laws were tongue-tied, while the nosy neighbors feasted on the juicy gossip. I knew it was fake. Shiguang was perfectly healthy. How could he just drop dead? Exactly. The Lius are downright heartless. It's not like Su Yasha chose infertility. These things happen. Even if they wanted a divorce, they should have been decent about it. This cruel scheme is practically murder. Tell me about it. The Lius are downright shameless. And to think I actually believed their lies, talking like saints but acting like beasts. Disgusting. Director Song cleared his throat. Order. Order. The crowd fell silent. The in-laws' eyes were red with emotion. The father-in-law could only say, Su Yasha's infertility is an undeniable deal-breaker. Even if my son finds another woman, Su Yasha couldn't keep her man. That's her own failing. Since they're incompatible, divorce is only natural. Don't you agree? Director Song. He didn't dare ask Zhang Zeki. I dare only ask Director Song, as I believe Director Song would prefer not to escalate the matter. After all, it would not reflect well if news of this incident were to spread in the area under Director Song's jurisdiction. Such an absurd situation would be embarrassing for him. Indeed, Director Song hesitated. Zhang Zeku was still beside me. I grabbed his handkerchief and blew my nose forcefully. Zhang Zeku's eyes twitched, jumped a bit. Director Song, the Lu family wants me dead. They've ruined my reputation and left me with nothing. Even in ancient times, divorced women could reclaim their dowries. Besides, the Lius are clearly in the wrong here. If not for General Zhang's intervention today, I'd have been wronged to death. General Zhang, Director Song, you must deliver justice for me. I won't let Director Song brush me off so easily. The Lu family won't get off scot-free either. My in-laws pointed at me and screamed, Su Yashu, you barren woman. Any decent person would have killed themselves by now. Our Shiguang is the family's only heir. How could we possibly keep a barren wife? You're getting divorced today whether you like it or not. And don't even think about taking back those dowry items that entered our household. Who ever heard of reclaiming dowries? Only out of respect for Commander Zhang and Director Lu will we let you pack a few rags. Listen to that condescending tone. Anyone would think my rags were worth a fortune. I said coldly, no deal. If we're separating, we settle accounts properly. Every penny that's mine stays with me. Only then will I consent to divorce. Otherwise, I'll sue Lu Shiguang for bigamy. You, shut your mouth. The old woman startled, casting an anxious glance at Director Song and Zhang Zeki. Zhang Zeki responded with an inscrutable smile. Director Song offered Zhang a cigarette, which he accepted without refusal, twirling it between his fingers, taking this as a positive sign. Director Song immediately brightened and gestured for the Lu family to remain calm, but who could have guessed Zhang Zeki's next words would be, Director Song, this place of yours is truly remarkable. Even the cigarettes smell better than what we get at division headquarters. The aroma is simply superior. Those words made Director Song's heart skip several beats. The cigarettes he's smoking today definitely aren't standard issue for bureau chiefs. Everyone understood the situation perfectly well without saying a word. Director Song was no exception. Fully aware Zhang Zeki intended to intervene today, though the reason remained unclear. Director Song flashed an ingratiating smile. Sensing he held the upper hand in this matter, he decided to do Zhang Zeki this favor as a courtesy. Forgive my impropriety, Division Commander Zhang. Rest assured, I won't let an innocent person suffer unjustly. As for Lu, Director Song glared at the elderly man, who immediately blurted out, Lu Laozhen. Your family matter has even drawn Division Commander Zhang's attention. This requires proper resolution. The fault lies with your side. How could you exploit their daughter while driving her to despair? If she proposes a solution, you'd better accept it. Otherwise, if she actually sued Lu Shiguang for bigamy, he'd be in serious trouble. The old man shuddered. He might throw his weight around at home, but he was utterly clueless about bureaucratic affairs. Hearing Director Song's words, he grew genuinely frightened. Then he turned to me and asked, "What do you want?" I proposed my request. "Since the dowry items I brought are all in your possession, please convert them into money and return it to me, along with the compensation for the past few years. Give me 1,000 yuan, and I'll get a divorce certificate with Lu Shiguang. $1,000. Why don't you just rob a bank? You couldn't even get that much if you tried to rob one." Mother-in-law cracked first. Zhang Zeki and Director Song frowned. The father-in-law immediately signaled his wife to be quiet. $1,000. "Fine, as long as you agree to divorce, you'll get the money after we're done." Does he think he's clever, or does he take me for a fool? No deal. Pay today, marriage license today, no payment today. I'm filing charges against Lu Shiguang today. If I don't get the money today, once Zhang Zeki leaves, I won't see a single cent. Don't spout nonsense. Shiguang has no other women. How could he commit bigamy? Your lawsuit would be pointless. Lu Shiguang already has a child with that woman. They just never registered their marriage, keeping it all hush-hush. He thinks I can't find evidence. But what if? Those with nothing to lose fear nothing. I bet he won't dare confront me. Not a single cent less than 1,000. Just as geese leave their cries and men leave their marks, I trust the party and the bureau chief will give me justice. The old man was genuinely frantic, so he could only signal his wife with his eyes to fetch the money. I know they've got money. Lu Shiguang refuses to give me any, but would he dare withhold from his own parents? The whole family conspired to profit from my suffering. This injustice won't go unpunished. My mother-in-law reluctantly pulled out 1,000 yuan after much dawdling. The bystanders just stood there gawking, spouting such hurtful words that left my in-laws utterly humiliated. Counting the money, I told Zhang Zeki, "The amount's correct. Commander Zhang, would you kindly escort me to finalize the divorce with Lu Shiguang? He complains, I can't bear children, and I say he's no real man. Divorce it is." Watching my in-laws tremble with rage filled me with quiet satisfaction. Zhang Zeki didn't object, and had his guard drive me and my in-laws to the Civil Affairs Bureau to process the divorce. With Director Song's intervention, the divorce paperwork was completed swiftly. Holding the divorce certificate finally gave me peace of mind. Whether Lu Shiguang lives or dies is no longer my concern, but I'll make sure to report him. I packed and given away all my belongings, keeping only my ID, divorce certificate, and bank book ready to leave. I deposited that 1,000 yuan right after the divorce for easier carrying. As I stepped out, I happened to see Zhang Zeki standing by the car. I approached him and said, "Commander Zhang, I truly appreciate your help today. Without you, this matter would have dragged on indefinitely, and, with no connections or influence, I'd be completely trampled." I'm genuinely grateful to Zhang Zeki. After all, he owes me nothing. It's only right to thank him for letting me use him like this. Zhang Zeki smiled with a glint of clarity in his eyes. Knowing how to leverage limited resources for your own benefit, you're hardly, fool. I have my own reasons for helping you. If I'm lending a hand, I expect something in return. I couldn't quite grasp what Zhang Zeki meant. My wife didn't make it during childbirth, but the baby survived. He's 6 now, that impossible age where even dogs and cats avoid him. I need someone to keep him in line before he turns rotten. You strike me as sharp, the type who won't get shortchanged nor let those around you get shortchanged either. You're not angry that I took advantage of you. In that instant, I realized my little tricks had fooled everyone else, but not this battle-hardened man. He gave a roguish chuckle. Can't call it taking advantage when I'm willing, since you can't bear children. Mine will be yours, in the future. How's that sound? I get it now. Zhang Zeki has his eye on me because I can't bear children. I'm not being coy here. Landing a division commander as a husband is beyond most women's wildest dreams, let alone gaining a 6-year-old son in the bargain. Why on earth wouldn't I take this deal? But I have conditions. Commander Zhang, you're a reasonable man. With someone like you, I'll speak plainly. The Lu family has treated me this way. I can't just let it slide. If you can teach Lu Shiguang a lesson for me, I'll agree to your terms. I had ulterior motives. If Zhang Zeki refused, then don't blame me for not returning the favor. With $1,000 in my pocket, I could walk away and still live comfortably, even running a small business. I'll live more comfortably this lifetime than the last. Zhang Zeki didn't hesitate long. Opening the car door, he said, "Let's go. Wait at my place while I see if you're up to the task." My guard went up as I frowned. What if your son rejects me? Zhang Zeki laughed in exasperation, clearly thinking me utterly ungrateful. Don't worry, whether my son wants you or not, I'll keep my promise and see this through. I nodded and got in the car. Zhang Zeki asked me, "Do you want to go back and tell your family?" I shook my head, my gaze falling on the familiar streets outside. I've lived here for years and still feel somewhat attached to this place, enough said. I've been living for others all this time, marrying someone I didn't love to please my family, killing myself for a worthless man. From now on, I'll live for myself. There's nothing more to discuss with anyone. Zhang Zeki fell silent. He did promise to marry me, but hasn't actually done so. Given his status, he wouldn't lower himself to come courting at my family's doorstep. Standing at Zhang Zeki's door, I suggested, "Why don't we tell them I'm your hired help? We can discuss marriage once everyone's more comfortable." Zhang Zeki raised an eyebrow and said, "Fine by me." Seems he's not the impatient type after all. After some time, I got along quite well with Zhang Zeki's son Zhang Ningwei. The little guy insisted on sleeping with me every night. Though young, he was sharp-minded. One night as we lay together, he whispered, "Auntie, I know you're not the nanny, you're the stepmom Dad found for me. If you're uncomfortable with this, you can talk to your dad. Tell him to just treat me as the housekeeper if that's better." I'm actually hesitating a bit. Zhang Ningwei seems like a good kid. If he's truly against Zhang Zeki remarrying, I don't necessarily have to go through with this marriage. Pay me properly, and I'll treat serving Zhang Ningwei as a career, not unpaid maid work. Zhang Ningwei shook his head. This would damage your reputation. My father's a responsible man. Bringing you home means he genuinely accepts you. Auntie, I'm not petty. My past anger toward Dad came from those women with ulterior motives who buttered me up just to steal his affection and make him abandon me. I see through it all. But lately I've realized you're completely, you only like my dad because you want a family. That's why I like you. At least you're not fake. Thanks for seeing right through me with such clarity. Now you're making me doubt my acting skills. Would you mind if I married your dad, between you and me? I've really wanted a mom. My dad's always busy. It's just been me and Grandma at home, but Grandma passed away last year. Dad hired several young nannies to look after me, but they were all clearly after him either for his looks, or his money. Quite the glowing review of your own father. So you think I'm not after anything? I want money too. And I'm attracted to your dad's looks. My face burned crimson as I forced the words out. Zhang Zeki is quite good looking. Zhang Ningwei hummed in agreement. Auntie, I get it. A woman should always have her reasons. You're so much younger than my dad, and Dad says your cooking reminds him of Mom's. I can tell he's smitten, so go for him. He'd be delighted. When he's happy, I'm happy too. I like you as well, and you two could even give me a baby sister. That's what I really want, my own little sister. This kid just melts my heart. Zhang Zeki is truly blessed. Come to think of it, if I married Zhang Zeki, Zhang Ningwei would be my son. Well, that could work. Zhang Ningwei and I slept soundly through the night. Early next morning, Zhang Zeki returned saying he'd made progress with his task, and had his guard escort me to see. It was at the police station that I met Lu Shiguang. He hung his head low, looking utterly terrified, the moment he saw me. His face instantly became guarded. You took the money, so why are you still reporting me? I didn't commit bigamy. I just wanted a son with a woman of ill repute. Do you even realize how serious this is? The guard almost burst out laughing. Lu Shiguang immediately shut his mouth. I looked at Lu Shiguang, my emotions long since settled. This man wasn't worth anything I'd given him. I'm taking back everything I gave. Lu Shiguang, if you want a divorce, just say it. I won't cling to you. But what your family's doing is leaving me no way out. Even a cornered rabbit will bite. If I sink my teeth into you, you brought it on yourselves. Sobbing I'm begging you. I'm already locked up because of solicitation. What more do you want from me? I never wronged you before. I just wanted a child. I admit my family went too far, but I don't regret it. It was all for old Lu's legacy. There's still someone left at home. The guard hesitated to speak further, so I stood up and left. I came to see Lu Shiguang this time simply to say goodbye. Having lost his job and all dignity, life won't come easy for him from now on. The guard escorted me home, and I noticed Zhang Zeki hadn't left. He greeted me saying, "Today's auspicious. Let's go get our marriage license." I nodded in agreement. I, Su Yeshu, deserve to live my best life too. Married life was peaceful. Except Zhang Zeki turned out to be quite clingy. I thought all men were as feeble as Lu Shiguang. But Zhang Zeki proved me wrong. I started worrying our bed might not hold up. Apparently Zhang shared my concern. He replaced it with a sturdier one, leaving me teased by the neighbors for days. Zhang Ningwei and I got along great, so we took the kids home during summer break. Never expected to feel nauseous during dinner though. When Mom asked about my period, I realized it had been 2 months. I'd stopped tracking my cycle years ago after being told I couldn't conceive. Her comment made me get checked. Turns out I'm pregnant. I was completely stunned. My mother cried. Heaven has finally shown mercy. Everyone said you couldn't conceive. This pregnancy is truly a miracle, the doctor said. Nonsense about infertility. This young woman is in perfect health and at prime childbearing age. Doctor, are you sure? My daughter was married before. They told her she'd never have children. My mother didn't believe it, and I had my doubts too, the doctor said. I can't speak to other matters, but the female patient is in excellent health, as is the baby. I'd recommend follow-up visits. My mother dragged me outside and spat angrily. It must be Lu Shiguang who's infertile, and he dared to slander you. That whole Lu family is rotten. That woman he married, who knows if that child she brought along is even his. My mother came home beaming with joy, handing out celebratory candies to the neighbors while announcing my pregnancy. The news quickly reached the Lu household. After his release from prison, Lu Shiguang became completely listless, refusing to work while the woman he was with berated him daily. When Lu Shiguang heard about my pregnancy, he couldn't believe it and rushed over to see me. I was taking Zhang Ningwei to buy goldfish. He tugged at me begging for a baby sister, and I agreed with a smile. Lu Shiguang stared at my belly in shock. I said calmly, the doctor confirmed I'm fertile and perfectly healthy. The infertility issue lies with you, Lu Shiguang. Later, Zhang Zeki drove back himself and took me and Zhang Ningwei home. I'm at a loss for how to explain this. After all, Zhang Zeki sought me out originally because I couldn't conceive. After Zhang Ningwei fell asleep that night, I decided to have a talk with Zhang Zeki. Zhang Zeki, if you don't want this child, I won't force you. Let's get divorced. I knew military regulations prohibited service members from having a second child. What do you mean by that? You married me because I couldn't conceive. This pregnancy wasn't planned, but I treasure it. I thought I'd never be able to bear children my whole life. I'll raise this child alone, no burden to you. You can just. My voice trailed off. All these days, Zhang Zeki had been following my every word. He's got that macho pride, yet he trusts me with our finances, lets me take charge of our son, and actually listens to me at home. How could I not be moved by that? Just thinking about him with another woman sends sharp pangs through my heart. What do you mean I can? Are you seriously trying to set me up with another woman? What kind of man do you take me for? I always knew you could conceive. If you weren't willing, I would have taken precautions. This child was always part of my plan, just came a bit sooner than expected. Me? I looked up, utterly stunned. He chuckled and pinched my cheek. All right, young but shrewd. Did you really think I'd investigate Lu Shiguang without doing my homework? Why didn't you tell me? Didn't I tell you to take precautions? You said you wanted to live for yourself, didn't you? And you've always wanted a child too. As for family planning, our situation is special. Ningwei isn't actually my biological child, he's my comrade-in-arms kid that my ex-wife and I adopted. I've already filed the paperwork with the authorities for us to have this one. Don't you worry about a thing. I immediately felt relieved. I truly want to keep this baby. Later, when Zhang Qiqi turned 3 and started kindergarten, through my own hard work and Zhang Zeki's connections, I secured a stable job. Zhang Ningwei adored his little sister, rushing to pick her up from kindergarten every day after school. I can handle 2 kids at once. Zhang Zeki got a vasectomy before I gave birth. Our family's living in perfect harmony now. I ran into Lu Shiguang while out with the kids. He seemed to be looking for me specifically. I heard he divorced his second wife because, according to my mom, the kid wasn't even his. Serves him right. Karma's a bitch. Without another glance at Lu Shiguang, I got on my bike with the child and rode off. I hadn't gone far when a deafening crash erupted behind me. Someone shouted there'd been a car accident. Turning back, I realized Lu Shiguang had vanished. My pupils contracted sharply. Lu lay motionless nearby, blood pooling around him. His vacant gaze drifted toward me, eyes brimming with something I couldn't comprehend. It's as if he inherited the fate meant for my past life. But it doesn't matter anymore. I told the child, don't stare. Let's go home. Dad's coming for dinner today. Sounds great. I didn't look back, because that wasn't my destiny. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. Feel free to share your suggestions in the comments below. See you in the next video.